One perfect Warden charge and fireball can turn a 70% 2-star into a perfect attack with swag spells. And in this video, I'm breaking down 11 fireball principles that top players use. Under each principle, there are multiple advanced tips that you probably don't know. Whether you use Rocketloons, furnaces, or smash-type attacks with the fireball, these tips will instantly level up your attacks. And at the end of this video, there is a bonus tip which I am sure only less than 0.1% players know. Imagine this: you ice block your Warden, turn buildings invisible, press the fireball, drop the earthquakes. And the fireball lands on something completely different. That is the worst feeling for a fireball attacker. So here's how to prevent that with a simple 3-step framework. Step 1. Visualize a circle. Imagine a circle centered on your Warden, passing through the building you want a fireball. You don't need a perfect circle, just an approximate arc. The defenses inside the circle are the ones you should turn invisible or destroy. Step 2. Group the defenses. Now take the defenses inside that circle and mentally divide them into groups. Each group gets one invisibility spell, and if a defense is standing alone, use some support troops to snipe it. Step 3. Execution. After sniping isolated defenses, ice block your Warden or let him lock onto something tanky. Turn each group invisible, and just before pressing the fireball, check whether you made all the defenses inside the circle invisible. Also be careful with last-second hidden Teslas. You need to be fast while doing this, but not too fast. The Invis spell has a slight delay in turning the buildings invisible. So, if you click the fireball very fast after deploying the Invis, it will hit the buildings you turned invisible at the last. Now, let's see a tip to identify the closest building to the Warden. You can tell the nearest defense to your Warden just by looking at his aura circle. Since it's a circle, the building closest to the circle's edge is the closest building to the Warden. Here, the hero bell is clearly closer to the circle than the mortar or the multi-gear cannon. So, when I click the fireball, it hits the hero bell. Let's see another example. I want to fireball the monolith, and obviously the mortar is the closest defense as he is attacking it. But if you take a look at the monolith, the Warden's aura circle is passing through the corner tile of it, whereas it is barely touching the air defense, and there is a clear gap between the circle and the wizard tower, which means the monolith is closer to the Warden than the air defense and the wizard tower. So, I only have to make the mortar invisible. If the circle is close to multiple buildings, then try to observe how many % of each building is inside the circle. If building A has a larger % of it inside the circle than building B, then building A is closer. Anyway, it is better to turn those buildings invisible if you can't say it for sure. I mentioned about sniping defenses during the last principle. Now I am going to share 6 tips to snipe buildings efficiently that will help you save some troops like Rocketloons or Super Barbarians in the attack. It may not sound like a lot, but the difference between a 99% 2-star and a 3-star can be a single Rocketloon or Super Barbarian. When 2 defenses are close to each other, and if you want to snipe both, send 1 extra Rocketloon than what is required to destroy the second building separately. Let's see an example. Sniping this mortar requires 2 Rocketloons, and sniping the archer tower also requires 2. But if I send 3 Rocketloons together to the mortar, they destroy it fast and they also destroy the archer tower. This saves 1 Rocketloon. Another example. 4 Rocketloons are required to destroy a standalone multi-archer tower and 2 for the mortar. By sending in 5 together, I can save 1 Rocketloon. However, don't deploy more than 3 Rocketloons at once if you are sniping something close to the Warden. When sniping a defense close to the Warden's aura, always send your troops in such a way that they stay inside the rage gem. That extra damage is often enough to save some troops. You can also use this when the Warden is tanking multiple defenses at once, like an X-bow with a ricochet cannon or a multi-archer tower. Normally, you'd have to spend at least 1 housing space spell here, But if you time your Rocketloons correctly and keep them inside the rage aura, you can save that spell. Just remember, this does not work with super barbarians or baby dragons, because their rage doesn't stack with the Warden's rage gem. If you are using Rocketloons or balloons to snipe a defense, try to send them in such a way that they fly across the nearby non-defensive building to target the defense, so that they can snipe the non-defense with their splash damage. This works only if there is no gap between the two buildings. When you are going to use air troops like Baby Dragon or Rocketloons to snipe a defense, and if there is a high air damage nearby, wait and send it when the boogers are tanking the air damage. If you want to snipe a defense near a multi-archer tower, then instead of sniping the defense early, wait and send your troops when your Warden enters the range of the multi-archer tower so that they can split the damage. Use minions and archers to save Rocketloons or super barbarians. While sniping an archer tower, you can use one Rocketloon and one minion instead of two Rocketloons. While sniping a wizard tower, you can use two Rocketloons with one or two minions instead of three Rocketloons. The same applies to super barbs. So far, we've covered 2 principles and 7 tips, and we're still just getting started. There are a lot more important concepts coming, plus a bonus tip at the end you don't want to miss. Now let's move on to principle 3, because even a perfect fireball means nothing if you mess your earthquake placement. Let's start with the basics: monolith, revenge tower, clan castle, ricochet cannon, and eagle artillery. These defenses require 2 earthquake spells after the fireball, while all the other defenses require just 1 earthquake spell. The town hall requires 3 earthquakes and a giant arrow to be destroyed. About the earthquake's range, you have to remember 2 things. There can be a maximum of 8 tiles in the sideways between 2 buildings that you can cover with an earthquake. And diagonally, there can be 6 tiles in between. When you fireball an area which has high HP and low HP defenses, then spread your earthquakes in such a way that the high HP defenses are damaged from both the earthquakes, while the low HP ones are covered with only 1 earthquake. Sometimes you can just use 1 earthquake and let your Warden finish the building, or simply send some support troop to snipe it. If you have a situation where you can cover only one of the high HP defense with 2 earthquakes, then go for the deeper one and then snipe the more exposed one. If Clan Castle is one of them, then go for it. You can also let the Warden damage a building before Ice Block so that you can destroy it without an earthquake. It is really good to know the fireball's exact range, so that you can destroy all the buildings that are damaged by the fireball. Or just wait a split second to see which buildings were damaged by the fireball. But if you wait too long, the builder huts may repair the buildings. I have made a detailed guide on how to find the fireball's range. Make sure to check that out after this video. So far, you've learned how to snipe defenses, set up the fireball, and use earthquakes correctly. Now comes a decision that decides the entire attack. What exactly should you fireball? If you're using fireball Rocketloons or furnaces, where the Warden works mostly on his own, your goal is simple: maximize the value with the fireball. Here is a priority chart based on value. In general, Rage Tower compartments and Invisibility Tower compartments are always excellent fireball targets. If you are confused on what to fireball, a simple question will help you decide what to fireball. Ask yourself this: which area of this base would cost me the most spells if I don't fireball it? That's your fireball target. But fireball in smash attacks is different. If you're using smash-type attacks with fireball, you should prioritize pathing over value. Spending too long on a Warden charge in smash attacks is dangerous. If you spend more than 1 minute on the Warden walk, you're risking a time fail. So instead, identify an area you can fireball quickly or after a short Warden walk. Make sure it creates clean pathing for your main army. If there are multiple areas like that, then go for the one with the highest value. Here is a small but important tip. If there's a defending hero dancing around near your fireball area, Wait and use the fireball when the hero is near the fireball target, especially if you have an ice block. Now you know what to fireball and how to set up the fireball. Let's see where exactly to deploy the Warden before the fireball. If the defenses are distributed in the usual way, then the fastest and cheapest way to fireball a building is to deploy the Warden in the spot on the boundary of the base, which is closest to the fireball target. And the safest way to fireball is to deploy him at the nearest corner to the fireball target, as you have a higher probability of facing less number of defenses at a time. If you have a recall spell in your army, or if you can eliminate the dangerous area with the fireball, then it's fine to start from the flanks. Otherwise, starting from the corner is safer. So, for smash attacks or fireball Rocketloons without a recall, it is safer to start the Warden charge from a corner in most cases. By deploying him in the corner, I don't mean the exact corner. Most bases have the following set up in the corner compartments, where a X-bow and a ricochet cannon or multi-archer tower will be hitting your Warden simultaneously. On those bases, try to deploy your Warden in such a way that he stays in the line joining the X-bow and the multi-archer tower or ricochet cannon, so that he is more likely to face one defense at a time. If the multi-archer tower is diagonally one tile away from the X-bow, the Warden can't outrange the X-bow and he has to face both the defenses together. But if it is any more than that, he can outrange the X-bow while attacking the multi-archer tower if deployed in the way I said earlier. It's time to see an advanced tip. But before seeing that, pause the video right here and answer in the comments if you want to fireball the Revenge Tower, where exactly will you deploy the Warden, and which buildings will you turn invisible. Most players deploy their Warden exactly at the corner and use 2 invisibilities on such bases. But on such symmetric bases, you can often save 1 invisibility by slightly offsetting the Warden towards one side. Sometimes you have to do quick fireballs, where you turn the buildings invisible in advance, deploy the Warden, and immediately press his ability. While doing this, you should be very fast to avoid hitting hidden Teslas with the fireball. If there is a high damage while doing the quick fireball, just drop an invis at the spot where you will deploy the Warden. Sometimes, if you turn a building invisible which is close to the boundary, then deploy the Warden within that invis spell. Another tip is to deploy him close to the building, within the deployment area. If you deploy him farther in the deployment area, some other defense might be the closest. And make sure to check the range of the air defense if it is close to the boundary, and deploy the Warden and Sneezy outside it. If you have no other option but to deploy the Warden within the range of an air defense, then send enough Rocketloons to distract it, or even use an invisibility because keeping the Sneezy alive is crucial. This next principle is a game changer. If you master this, it's like having 1 extra spell in your attacks. But if you mess this up, your Warden dies early. I know some players watching this can fireball targets on the edge without an ice block, but top players like Stars can even fireball the core without using an ice block. I'm going to show you how to do that safely. Quick warning though, this is risky and it takes practice. If you try this in ranked for the first time, your Warden will die a few times. That's normal. Now here's the fundamental idea. You need an anchor for your Warden. That anchor can be defending CC troops, skeletons, defending heroes, storages, or any high HP non-defensive building. If a defending hero is hitting your Warden, deal with it first using a spell or a headhunter. Once the Warden is locked onto a high health building, you're good to fireball without an ice block. But you should be careful with low HP non-defenses. If the anchor building is of low HP, you must place the invisibilities before he starts attacking it. That way, when the building goes down, the surrounding defenses are already visible. If you wait until after he starts attacking, the building dies too fast and the Warden walks straight into danger as the surrounding defenses stay invisible. Important detail: if a high HP non-defense is inside the fireball area, it behaves like a low HP building. You still need to use your invisibilities early. Because the timing window here is very small, I only recommend fireballing without ice block if your spell speed and accuracy are high. Now, what if there are no non-defensive buildings nearby? You still have two options. If you're using recall, simply recall the Warden after the fireball. I recently removed an ice block and an invis from my fireball Rocketloon army to add recall, and it gave me good results. But if you're using smash attacks like throwers or meteor golems, you won't have recall. In that case, you can keep the Warden invisible while he is moving. Drop the invisibility in the direction he's walking, not where he's standing. A totem spell also works here. If you plan to fireball without an ice block, do not use furnaces before the fireball. They will clear the non-defensive buildings you need as anchors. If you still have to use furnaces to speed up the Warden walk, then use them only on one side of the Warden instead of using them on both the sides. While turning the defenses invisible, make sure that you don't turn the non-defenses invisible. There's one more way to fireball without an ice block, and this one is powerful but dangerous. First, the basics. When you use the Angry Jelly, the Warden targets only defenses for a limited time. From levels 1 to 4, that's 25 seconds. Levels 5 to 9, 30 seconds. Level 10, 35 seconds. You can subtract this from the 3-minute timer to know exactly when the jelly wears off. Or more simply, watch when the jelly moves forward and starts targeting defenses. You must set up the fireball only after the jelly wears off. If you fireball while the jelly is active, the Warden will walk deep into the base and die. There are only a few exceptions. If he's attacking ice golems, a defending king, or a pile of skeletons, it's still safe. Now, to control the Warden with Angry Jelly, you must master two things. First, pathing. At any moment, you should be able to identify the nearest defense. Use the same circle distance trick from Principle 1. If a defense is pulling the Warden in the wrong direction, snipe it using Rocketloons, Super Barbarians, or other support troops. If it's worth it, you can even invis that defense. That was pathing control. The second thing is timing. Specifically, after destroying how many defenses the jelly wears off. If you want a deep fireball, rage the Warden so he destroys more defenses before the jelly expires. If the damage is high, rage both the Warden and the healers. If the damage is manageable, you can use an aggressive rage placed in front of the Warden. The more aggressive your rage spell is, the more defenses you can destroy before the jelly is inactive. But here's the mistake most players make. If there aren't many defenses before the target, do not rage the Warden. Raging him will push him too deep, and he'll be in trouble. In those situations, use other spells to keep him safe, but avoid rage. You can also rage only the healers and not the Warden. If you find a skeleton trap and need to slow him down, let him attack the skeletons. If you can't afford to slow down, use a totem spell to clear them or make them invisible. One more critical warning. Do not place heavy funneling troops like furnaces or baby dragons behind the Warden. They will clear all non-defensive buildings, and the Warden will have no anchor when it's time to fireball. Instead, use lighter cleanup troops like archers, minions, or super barbarians to shape one side. That way, after the fireball, the Warden moves where you want him to. The biggest downside of Angry Jelly is this: direct fireballs are much harder. Most of the time, you'll need to deploy the Warden farther away and funnel him by sniping defenses on the opposite side. When you deploy the Warden near a corner, sometimes he starts walking in a weird direction, and you're forced to spend extra invisibilities during the fireball. Let's see how to control his movement instead of reacting to it. Funneling before the fireball. If you want the Warden to move in a specific direction from the corner before setting up the fireball, the first trick is very simple. Slightly offset the Warden towards the direction you want him to go. If you're using furnaces, offset them slightly to the opposite side. The the fire mites will clear those buildings first, and that naturally pushes the warden where you want. If you don't have furnaces, you can do the exact same thing with baby dragons or super barbarians. And if the building you need to clear is a defensive building, use Rocketloons, as we discussed in Principle 2. Send Rocketloons at an angle so their splash damage also clears nearby non-defensive buildings. Now let's talk about funneling after the fireball. This is especially for fireball Rocketloon or furnace attackers. The fireball itself already acts as a natural funnel, especially when you fireball an outer compartment. Take this base as an example. If you deploy the warden here and fireball this compartment, he is already biased to move in this direction. All you have to do is clear these outside buildings with a few funneling troops to lock in that path. When it comes to funneling, there is just one golden rule to remember. Destroy the buildings on the side you don't want your warden to go, and he will go where you want him to. In smash attacks, if you don't redirect your warden properly, he will walk off alone just like a fireball Rocketloon attack. And in fireball Rocketloon attacks, if your funnel isn't good, the warden might join your heroes like a smash attack, which often leads to a time fail. Both of these problems are solved by learning how to redirect the warden correctly. As a general rule of thumb, you need 20 housing space to redirect the warden. However, there are some exceptions. 3 Rocketloons are not enough. You need 4. You can't redirect him when the angry jelly is active. And if you are planning to use lava hounds to redirect the warden, you will need at least 3. A common mistake players make is that they deploy the redirecting troops too far from the warden. To redirect the warden, the troop must be deployed within 3 tiles from his rage aura. If you deploy the troop farther than that, the warden doesn't care, no matter how many troops you send. So when redirecting, the nearest target must be on the side you want him to go, and the troop must be within 3 tiles of the aura. In general, it's easier to redirect the warden using ranged units or air units, because walls don't affect their targeting. If you're a Meteor golem attacker, redirecting the warden with the queen is the best option. If you're a thrower attacker, redirecting him with throwers is easier than using the queen. If you're using Rocketloons or furnaces, you only need redirecting troops if you're not using recall. Here are some of the best options to redirect your warden in a fireball Rocketloon attack. But there are some troops you should avoid if you are redirecting the warden in a fireball Rocketloon attack. Avoid using big ground troops because they can steal your healers, and avoid tanky air troops like dragons as they survive too long, and the warden may follow them straight into danger. The next tip is extremely important for smash attacks. Don't wait until the warden destroys every building in a compartment and starts moving in the wrong direction. If you deploy the queen after he turns away, there's a high chance she will be more than 3 tiles away from the aura, and the warden won't follow. Instead, wait until the building he's attacking is 1 hit away, then deploy the queen. That way, he finishes the building and immediately follows her, instead of walking off alone. There is one common mistake that fireball smash attackers make. If defenses like expos are locked onto the warden while you're redirecting him and his health drops, immediately use an invis or totem. If you don't, your warden will die early, and the attack is usually over. Because fireball attacks are the meta right now, base builders actively bait warden charges. If you don't recognize and avoid those baits, you may lose the sneezy, healers, or even the warden. Let's go through the most reliable ways to spot and avoid baited areas. Let's start with a psychological way to avoid baits. When the left and right sides of a base look symmetric, warden charge the left side. Most players are right-handed, and they're more comfortable starting from the right. So base builders bait the right side more often. If the top and bottom are symmetric, go for the top side, because more players prefer starting from the bottom. But this doesn't work in every trophy range. At higher levels, attackers intentionally use the less comfortable side to avoid baits, and some defenders start baiting that side instead. So treat this as a probability advantage, not a guarantee. Anytime you see an open space, send a Rocketloon. Even 2 empty tiles are enough for seeking air mines to instantly kill your sneezy. If you have both balloons and Rocketloons in your army, if the next defense is far away, send a Rocketloon as it can trigger a lot of traps at once. If the next defense is close, send a regular balloon. This helps you to scout traps efficiently. If you find one trap, assume there are more nearby and send more Rocketloons. Traps are rarely placed alone. If you see the workshop near your Warden charge path, always check for a hidden air sweeper behind it. This is a very common bait. If you're a Fireball Rocketloon attacker, send a Rocketloon every time the Warden enters a new region. Don't assume the traps are over. In smash attacks, don't deploy all your balloons together. Spread them out both in space and time of deployment, so one trap doesn't wipe everything. If there is a Giga Bomb nearby, there is a high chance of finding a tornado trap. So, send in a Rocketloon to scout for it. You can trigger the Giga Bomb with 3 Rocketloons. This principle is especially important for Fireball Rocketloon and Furnace attacks. If you struggle to keep your Warden alive, this alone can instantly improve your consistency. During a Warden charge, you must constantly identify dangerous areas for the Warden. A dangerous area is any area where you will need a spell or support troops to keep him alive. What counts as dangerous depends on things like battle modifiers, healer levels, etc. For example, a standalone defending queen is dangerous in legend mode, but not in normal mode. As you play more, you'll naturally recognize these areas. The key skill is this: always know what the next dangerous area is and how long it will take the Warden to reach it. Before switching your attention to heroes, funneling, or the flame flinger, ask yourself, where is the next danger and how much time do I have? If the Warden is safe for a long time, you can comfortably funnel, deploy heroes, break walls, send ice golems, snipe defenses. If the Warden will be in danger soon, let's say around 5 to 10 seconds, break your other tasks into small parts. For example, my Warden would enter a dangerous area within 10 seconds, so I started the funneling for the heroes, then immediately went back and protect the Warden with a spell. Once I know he's safe again, I deploy my heroes, ice golem. The funnel was already done in the previous safe window. If the Warden is about to enter a dangerous area, you can also rage him early and then focus on other tasks. The idea is simple. If you have a long safety window, do multiple tasks together. If you have only a short safety window, do one small task and focus on the Warden. Come back during the next safety window. A recall spell helps a lot here, because redeploying the Warden in a safe spot gives you a long window to set everything else up. And while multitasking, always keep an eye on the Warden's health bar. If you see it dropping unexpectedly, react immediately. It is time for the bonus tip. This bonus tip helps you know exactly when a defending hero targets your Warden. The best time to send a headhunter is when the defending hero is distracted. And the most reliable time is when the defending hero is about to attack the Warden. But knowing when the hero actually switches to the Warden is tricky. The exclamation mark isn't reliable because it can trigger when boogers or fire mites enter the hero's range. I've even lost my Warden multiple times thinking he was out of the range of the hero, only for the hero to suddenly lock on. Here's the reliable method. Look at the Warden's aura circle. When the aura gets close enough to the defending hero's altar, the hero will target the Warden. How close is close enough depends on the direction of the attack, and I'll show the exact distances visually. Once you learn this, you'll know precisely when to send a headhunter or use a spell. hope you found this video helpful. If you did, share this video to your clanmates or friends who use Fireball. Click the video on the screen if you want to learn to calculate the Fireball's range quickly.